Okay guys, I want to do a tier list here specifically per map. Tier lists so far by most content creators, including my own, have been in a very generalist sense. Who is the strongest, who is the weakest? This was my latest tier list that I had made, and while it says Altai here, I just renamed this. It used to say super strong, strong, meh, and bad. That was my latest tier list from February 2022, but now I'm gonna do a tier list based on the 6 ladder maps that we have, namely Altai, Dry Arabia, High View, Hill and Dale, Lipany, and Mongolian Heights. Starting at the top with Altai. As we know, AOE4 is not a game where you end up picking one civilization and sticking with it in tournaments. Of course, my tier list will be a combination of pro play prioritization, pro play win rates, and win rates across the ladder as well. So it's kind of an amalgamation of the different experiences, those that you may have in Silver League and what we see at the pro level as well. But it is going to lean more heavily towards the pro level and the meta picks on certain maps. Every map has its own layout and therefore lends itself best to certain civs' strengths. So if we look at Altai, for instance, you start somewhere here. There's always a deer camp next to you. There's always a middle path and there is a roundabout path around it. Altai was recently changed to have more wood than it once had, but it used to be known as quite a scarce in wood type of map. There's a sacred site in the middle, and then there's going to be one here or here, and the other will be a mirror image there or here. With 4 deer camps and now even more extra small deer camps, Altai has more deer than ever. That has made it better for Rus. The more wood has made it better probably for non-English civs. English does like to spend a lot of wood, but because of their Wingard Palace, they're able to use trebuchet production for just 100 wood per trebuchet, and you get bonus units too. So English actually is better at playing without wood than many other civs in the extreme late game when it comes to a turtle situation, which tends to kind of happen because the map is easily wall-offable, 2 stone walls on the side, and then protecting the mid with actual army. Altai can be a rush map, it can also be a turtle map, and therefore there are certain civs that play better there than others. The most popular pick on Altai has been, so far, English. And I'm only going to be using actually 3 tiers for my map tier list, since I'm going to make this tier list 6 times during the course of this video. English is one of the most popular picks on Altai. What is the civ that you generally don't really want to be playing here? Actually, I feel like Altai is pretty good for a number of civs, but I will say that French doesn't like this map as much as others because it's easy to be walled off. Mongols have a fairly easy time tower rushing people, and it's a strong civ, so there's still going to be a strong pick here as well, though perhaps they're not as common here. And partially the reason is English is one of the better civs into Mongols. Mongols can tower rush everybody, but they do the worst against English because of the longbows coming out of a free double archery range, but also because villagers can shoot down either spearmen or villagers of the Mongol that's trying to do a tower rush. Because English is so good here due to the natural flank defenses, which makes aggressive pushes of towers through the middle, leapfrogging towers to the enemy base so good, Mongols is less happy to play here. So while normally Mongol is a top civ, even after the patch notes that are that just dropped yesterday on actually 3 days ago on the 16th of May, Monday, Mongols is just going to be a counter civ here if you're expecting that your opponent won't be English. I have seen perform well in Altai, Chinese, Holy Roman Empire. Rus is now better because of the deer camps. Abbasid can boom here and do a pretty mean castle push now with the newly improved mangonels. They can boom because, again, it's easy to wall off and defend. Delhi likes this map because it is easy for them to wall off the sides and to wall off sacred sites and kind of fight for those, and then they can do an elephant push and kind of prevent the game from getting to Imperial by just doing a lot of sacred site control. So I don't think any civ in particular struggles too much here. which is why I'm going to put every single one here in the counter civ category, or let's say next best strongest. Mostly Altai is a English map. Every other civ is playable though, and it really depends on what you're facing. Holy Roman Empire quite regularly does fairly well into Chinese, and they do fairly well into Abbasid dynasty and sometimes Delhi. Against the slower civs, Holy Roman Empire is happy because they boom really well. But they do worse into Rus and French in particular, quite bad win rate into French and into Mongols. So it's more that Holy Roman wants to avoid French, Rus and Mongols and wants to play against Chinese, Delhi and Abbasid. That's what would make you end up making a decision in tournaments whether you would play Holy Roman Empire here. Holy Roman Empire into English I feel like is fairly well balanced, and therefore you could play them here, though I will say on this map English will have the edge against Holy Roman Empire more than on some others. By comparison, on Hill and Dale for instance, you'll see Holy Roman ranking higher than English. So this is my Altai tier list, and I must say that part of it got cut off. I will be expanding it. There we go, that's better, isn't it? Okay, now we have the full tier list showing. So this is my tier list for Altai, and having said that, let's go on to the next map. Dry Arabia. Alright, on Dry Arabia, this is a wide open map, so it is good for cavalry feudal civilizations and civs that can take the early aggression. Because of this, French is the best. Cheap economy buildings and a effortless let's get ahead economy via the bonus villagers and the cheap upgrades and economy buildings. That gives French a bit of a lead economically, and it pairs it up with the best map control unit, the early French Royal Knight. French is number one here, and you can see in tournaments that often on Dry Arabia, when available, when desired, French gets picked first. English is very close to French as well. Good at map control, good at turtling, even on a more open map like this is, because if we look at Dry Arabia, there are almost no natural defenses here. Some patches of forest, yes, but generally you're just out there, and walling is not easy. Mongols also do fantastic map control. They are strong on this map. Any unit can be made a map control unit when you're Mongols because of the OVU production, and with a couple of towers you can get a good line of sight and defense and play the game comfortably. With the newly improved Abbasid and Mongol siege engineering upgrades, Mongols can launch mangonel based attacks on their adversaries once again in castle with greater effectiveness, and that should give them a bit more of an advantage against English than they had in the patch that came before this week. Overall, the mangonel buff is a English nerf, since English can now mass longbows that will remain effective from feudal into castle very comfortably without being afraid of mangonels absolutely wrecking them. Therefore, these three are the top. And I'll say that fairly close to these are Delhi, Rus, and Abbasid dynasty. Abbasid dynasty is kind of a counter civ into Mongols. They are the, at least on the ladder, the third biggest enemy of Mongols. When it comes to Rus are a very big enemy to Mongols as well in a direct win rate comparison over all the maps. This is also because the Khan does not kill quitters as easily sometimes as Rus. Rus has a number of just ways that the game plays out that puts them over Mongols. Not going to go too deep into it right now because I'm doing a 6 map tier list. Delhi is also quite good at map control because they can pump out loads of spears and horsemen with scholar production, the efficient production upgrade from the mosque. And they can, the map is relatively small and direct to the opponent, so they can bring a lot of scholars to the middle sacred site, control it, have spears and horsemen and whatnot, and try to fight their adversaries. I will say that Delhi and I would say Rus is 4th and Delhi Abbasid are shared 5th, really used as counter civ depending on what you think you're going to face. And then Holy Roman Empire and Chinese, they're going to be probably on the will struggle area. Now, Holy Roman Empire did just get buffed, with the prelate being out by default and not needing to be made. And therefore I wonder if they're actually right here. And I would not even be surprised if they were even strong. With Minework Palace, with double TC opener, or with a fast castle with Minework Palace, I wonder if Holy Roman Empire can even be played as a first pick here. But I think still there are limitations to the Civ despite having a bit more of a streamlined economy. I still think that you can't fast castle against French who have Royal Knights everywhere. You need to make that barracks, you need to make a couple of spears. And they can have archers in your base by 6:30 or 7 minutes already. You can start castle by 7 minutes. So it's not like having 4 spears is going to keep you safe against 2-3 knights and two archers. They're going to shoot your spears with archers, and then knights are going to slow you down your villagers. And you can forget about picking up relics under those circumstances. Double TC opening holds more promise, and perhaps it'll work. But I still think I'd rather see them here than that I would see them here. So this would be my list. Chinese are an interesting civ that are very strong late game because of Chinese bombards, dynasties, Yuan or Ming, right? They have Imperial Official Tax Collection, they have 20% bonus resource drop off, they can build very fast, they can do Song Dynasty for extra villagers. But all that booming requires expansionism in terms of territory. They need new food sources, or they need to set up farming economy. And because of this, they need walls. When I play Chinese against Holy Roman Empire, I am very aware that I'm only outbooming them until they get Palace of Swabia. I also need to compensate for their relic collection. Either I rush castle and I get relics, but then I'm on 1 TC, and then maybe their 1 TC is better than mine because they get the Burgrave Palace, 5 barracks for free. I'm not going to make 1 nest of bees and stop 6-second production of men-at-arms coming out of Holy Roman Empire. So I need walls as Chinese player. And Dry Arabia would not be my top map to play them on. So this is my tier list for Dry Arabia. Moving on to High View. It has become pretty apparent that dad jokes cannot be kept away from those that have children. And it has also become pretty apparent that the top civilization on this map is Rus, for a number of reasons, and it has been that way for quite a while. Rus gets vision, large vision, from the wooden fortress, and they get large vision from hunting cabin as well, which is quite nice. Both offer a lot of vision, and these can be made in the woods in order to see more than what others can see. When you think high view, you should think low view, because there's so little you can see. All the stealth forest greatly limits scout information. And because of this, I can say the Chinese will struggle. They have the Tang Dynasty bonus on Dark Ages. Scouts see more things, but this vision bonus is entirely lost on high view because there's almost no open spaces. Vision is basically stopped 1 cm, that's like half an inch, into the forest when you're walking around with the scout, so you can't really make use of the Tang Dynasty. You're gonna have to cut through all those forests and do more travel than any other map in order to find all the sheep, the deer, the wolves and whatnot. The best civ that wants to do that is those that can make scouts without sacrificing villager production time, and that's the Rus. The map also has many wolves, besides the usual amount of sheep and deer. Wolves offer bonus food and gold for Rus, and that's why they're very happy with this map. There's also an infinite amount of wood, which means if you get to the late game, you can make an infinite amount of springles and trebuchets and bombards and whatnot. Rus has some of the best late game via Streltsy and 12.5 range springles, so they're very happy to know that they'll never run out of wood. They also have easy gold creation with the hunting cabin, with the relics they can get with the fast warrior monks, and there's always a safe trading post so you can set up late game trading. Everything Rus would want is in this map, that's why they're the best pick. Because of that, we are going to have
I'm ready for the lesson, Sensei Grubby.
Because of that, we are going to have the next civilizations purely here based on whether they can counter Rus. That is English. English do quite well into Rus because their longbow spearman composition beats Rus early knight and Rus archer early knight compositions. That helps them into Rus quite a lot. So you see often in tournaments that English will be used to counter Rus. So if you're playing on the ladder and you're wondering what to pick there, and you know how to play Rus, then Rus should be your pick. If you're expecting and fearing a Rus, you should pick one of the counter civs, and English is one of those. Another civ that can do quite well against Rus is just basically any of them that are strong and aren't severely weakened by the vision constriction play. French are also able to make scouts with a bit lower penalty. They can make extra scouts from their from their cavalry school, but maybe it's too late by then for early scouting and sheep collection, but they can do some professional scouts retrieval via their school of cavalry if that's something that they want to be doing. And as a civ that has early knights that heal up, they are better able to disrupt boar strategies from Rus than some others might be. The 8 villagers, 1 hunting cabin and 1 wooden fortress boar strat that Rus players like to do these days at the 5-minute mark, that can be harassed with early French knights. They'll keep having to pop their villagers into the wooden fortress, you pull back your knight, you heal up, you send another knight and you keep it up. It's going to cost them some food, and if they're inattentive you can even kill some villagers. You can also get serious about it, launch a knight archer attack quite early with your good economy, bring a ram, take down the wooden fortress and the hunting cabin. Even though they'll have most of the food out of the boar already, you're still forcing those 8 villagers all the way back home without finishing the boar, and maybe if he's actually defending in the wooden fortress, you can kill all of them. That makes Rus a bit better as well. I like Mongols here as well into Rus. Even though Mongols has a worse matchup into Rus, I still think they're strong enough to be able to be used here. Because of the lack of vision, you're slightly more likely to tower rush the Mongol player with... now actually, I wonder if they should be in the will struggle category, but I just don't think Mongols struggle anywhere in particular really. So I'm still going to put them on this list here. I would really not want to be playing Holy Roman Empire on this map. The lack of vision is not a good thing. Holy Roman Empire, because of the Prelate Inspire mechanic, wants to make a second scout less than some other civs. It's probably still best to make a second scout with Holy Roman Empire because you want to get those sheep, but because you're facing Rus so often, even if you make a second scout, they're making 3 or even 4. So you're still basically expected to find fewer than half the sheep on the map. Whereas against Delhi, you'll generally get slightly more than half. Against Chinese, you're statistically expected to get more than half if you go double scout, because Delhi and Chinese sometimes only make 1 scout, as does Abbasid Dynasty. But French is probably going to make 2 just to make map control against you better, to force you to find new food sources, which makes their French knights better. English plays 1 scout, so Holy Roman Empire is fine playing into English, which makes them okay to be picked against English if that's what you're expecting on high view. But Rus always has 3 or more. So from the 24 sheep, you're going to have 11 or less, maybe 10 or less, or 9 or less, which will force you to go out there in feudal, which is the one thing Holy Roman Empire doesn't want to do against Rus or French or English, is to be forced to be out there somewhere on the map. That's why they will remain in the will struggle category. Delhi is a hard one. I still think they're okay as a counter civ simply because they're kind of a top 4, top 5 civilization, and they should be okay here as well. 1 sacred site should be easy to get, the one nearest in your corner. The middle one you'll fight for, and the far one is hard to get. And that's enough to build a game plan on. Chinese, like I said, I don't like them here. Holy Roman Empire, I don't like them here. And Abbasid Dynasty, it's a bit of a toss-up. Either they're going to be on B or on C, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep them on C for now. Even though the latest patch has buffed them in multiple ways. But more about that later. Moving on to the next map. Hill and Dale. This is the 4th map out of 6 that we'll be looking at. Some water. Okay, gonna turn off. Yeah, okay. So on Hill and Dale, this is a map where you have anywhere from, I believe, 12 to 16,000 gold on your island. if you look at Hill and Dale, where do we have Hill and Dale? Here. So you've got 2 islands, and there's 2 small golds and 1 big one. See? 2 small golds and 1 big one, and the other side is like 4 small golds, something like that. Actually, no, it doesn't really. This is supposedly. Anyway, these symbols are not representative of what you actually find on your island. I'm gonna say you have anywhere from 12 to 16,000 gold on your main. I think it's 16,000. That's enough to launch an entire game plan off. You just need to wall off 3 small areas, here, here, and here, to be relatively turtle-proof and safe. And it's still very important to control the middle of the map with a keep, and especially the space between you, but also the flanks. And sometimes there's more wood on your side outside of your island, and sometimes it's more on their side. And it is important to take control of the entire map, especially based on which civ you're facing. But turtle civs are happy on Hill and Dale. If you're presented with having to pick a civ on this map, the top pick for a long time, and still is, and especially now, has been Holy Roman Empire. They're able to defend themselves against all kinds of feudal aggression, and there's going to be 1 really easy relic to pick and 3 relatively easy relics to pick. They can go to Fast Castle with relative safety, and then they can start spamming knights with the relic gold, and eventually they can make it to Swabia and set up a massive farming economy right back in the home base. If they have a Regnitz Cathedral with 2 relics inside, they're basically set for life, and they can push out hard and strong, relatively fast. Another good civ here are the Chinese. They can do that exact booming that I talked about during map 1 on Altai with great safety. And because they get the most out of their gold via Imperial officials, they're not getting 16,000 gold out of their gold. They're getting 16,000 times 20%, times 120% of their gold. So they're essentially getting 19,200 gold, all from their main island. And that's not even counting taxes production yet. So a good Chinese booming double TC Song Dynasty into Castle into Imperial can generate over 20,000 gold via taxes and via what they have on the mainland without ever picking up a single relic, and have 20 to 30 to 40% more villagers than their adversary. That makes this quite good for Chinese as well. Delhi is fairly happy on this map, also because they often face against relatively turtley civs, and because of that, they generally get to do what they want with the sacred side, or they're forcing a Chinese or Holy Roman Empire player to go out onto the map quicker than they would normally like. After all, relic collection at its earliest starts at 8 minute 30. Chinese Nest of Bee production or Imperial would start after the 10-minute mark, but sacred site capturing can start as early as 7 minutes. So this threat hits earlier than the other threats, and because of that, it usually needs to be reacted to. That's why Delhi are quite good here as well. Then the next civs that are good here are those that are good against these. Who's good against Holy Roman Empire? Making knights, going onto the map, trying to get relics, and trying to break their walls. Well, French are quite good against Holy Roman Empire. One of the best on most maps. So here they are still quite fine if you're looking to try and counter an HRE player without actually playing HRE yourself. Rus are kind of good here to deny relics and to take early map control. Their Boar strategy hits at the 5-minute mark. They can try to have that wooden fortress also zone out a couple of relics. They have early knights, or they can spam mass archers with their early double broad axis strategy and 3 to 4 archery ranges, and then kind of try to control the game in that manner, maybe even with rams. Abbasid Dynasty are pretty good here as well. They kind of have a middle timing. It doesn't hit as late as Swabia timings or Imperial Chinese, and it doesn't hit as early as Sacred Site attacks nor relic capturing, but it hits kind of right in the middle, setting up 2 TCs into an aggressive move out during early castle with some early mangonels maybe, or an early keep that has healing. There's plenty of cool plays for Abbasid Dynasty, and I'm gonna put them here as a good counter civ. You'll see Mongols and English the least here. English probably better now that they have better, let's say, sit back and turtle economy. They're not let's spam the longbow button anymore once hitting feudal. They're a lot about early Dark Age farming, but because they're up against well-defended turtle sieves that excel at doing that, I'm going to say they will either struggle or they're going to be a counter civ. But let's, for the purpose of originality, leave these two top civs at the bottom here, especially considering in a tournament, sometimes you can only pick these two civs once, because that's how the tournament rules work, and Hill and Dale would be the last one where you would pick them generally. For ladder, you might still be fine playing one of these two on this map, but it wouldn't be the first choice. Going on to Lipany. Lipany, Flavius Micro Arena, lol, forest nothing. Lipany. So Lipany is a little bit like Dry Arabia, but more natural terrain defenses. You've usually got like a weird plateau somewhere that defends one sacred site, sometimes a boar. There's stealth forest in the center, which kind of makes fighting for the center different. It's a bit more defensive. People are afraid to move through stealth forest, so think of Lipany as a more defensive Dry Arabia. So it's going to be relatively similar to the Dry Arabia list, where we saw high prioritization on French and English and Mongols, but it's going to make other civs better. It is more okay here to play Abbasid Dynasty, to play even Chinese, a bit easier to wall. It's more okay here to play Holy Roman Empire, right? But it's still going to be good for the standard aggressive civs. So I'm just going to list it quite like this. The 4 most aggressive civilizations, and then probably in this order, the 4 more defensive civilizations. That's my list for Lipany. Then I think we have one more map. Mongolian Heights. Mongolian Heights. Of course, this is the only water map in the ranked pool right now. It is characterized by 36 sheep instead of 24 sheep, and the waterway in between. What are the civs that don't like playing for water at all generally? Usually Holy Roman Empire. They don't like it as much. Usually Abbasid Dynasty prefers to just do double TC because they can get discount on their villagers, but they don't get discount on their boats. Delhi typically, well, they do get the attack boats, right? But they usually want to prioritize sacred site captures. In short, every civ can somewhat play for water, but not everyone likes it as much. English can also do it, but they generally prefer to sink their wood into farms rather than into boats. And it would slow down aggression for them. English feels like a cheese sieve sometimes on a water map. I don't have as much experience here, so I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to be doing this list. But from what I have seen in tournaments, Rus is still good on water map because their fishing ships actually turn out to be quite strong. And because this map often goes 30, 40, 50 minutes, even in pro play, because of the natural defenses of a 3-bridge waterway in between, Rus tends to be able to go to the late game with their good springles. Holy Roman Empire kind of likes this map because there's 6 relics. Yo, thanks for the raid, Mr. Llama. What up, man? Doing a tier list for AOE4. Hope you had a good stream. Welcome, Llamas. Hey, Grubby, nice to meet you. Hey, Llama, nice to meet you. You seem like a cool dude. We should meet sometime. Holy Roman Empire likes this map more because there are 6 relics on the map, 3 on their own side. So 6 relics instead of 5, like on most maps. And this is done to make it more fair on both sides of the river. Chinese can do Barbican plays, and they have good Imperial. Do I like Chinese on this map? I found Chinese to be really hard. I actually don't recommend it. I think it struggles. I don't think you would want to be playing here. Thanks, Llama. Cheers, mate. Congrats on the level 99 a couple of days ago. Mongols are still a top civ on water maps because Uvu aggression, Tower Rush aggression. Abbasid Dynasty, I think, is less happy here. They prefer to play off of town centers rather than off of docks. Delhi I don't actually like them too much on water maps. They used to be all the rage with the fishing boat aggression, but because fishing isn't as mandatory as before, I think they are not as happy here. I'll put French here, but I think mostly to counter these civs. Actually, like I said, I'm the least sure about this. What I am sure about is that Mongols should be here, Rus should be here, and Holy Roman Empire should be here. With actually probably Mongols greatly owning HRE on this map. I should probably put HRE right here. Happy to play against Rus perhaps, or against any of the others, but not as happy into Mongols. And I'll put French here because they're a strong civ. This would be my order for the final list. And that's my Mongolian Heights tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and maybe that it will help you a bit to pick your civ and knowing what to practice based on each of the 6 ranked maps. Good luck!